care for that, and then they will share it with their compatriots because chimps essentially have friendships, and they will become extraordinarily upset if the people that, or the chimpanzees that they're associating with, don't take proper care of the doll. If you give a doll to a juvenile male, he'll tear it apart to see what it's made of. And so that it's the infantile, it's the projection of the infant onto the block of wood that's particularly interesting to me, because one of the things I see happening, I would say, on a broad scale level in our society, this is perhaps where this might get somewhat contentious, is that I think with the feminine ethos that's centered on infant care, which is an extraordinarily important thing to be centered on given the dependency of our infants. Imagine the world is sort of divided into three parts. There's infants, there's infant caregivers, and there's predators. And so infants can do no wrong. Infant caregivers are motivated by the highest and noblest of motivations, which is essentially an all-encompassing empathy. And anyone who isn't either of those two things is to be regarded with severe suspicion. And that's a very good ethos if you're dealing with infants, but it's a very bad ethos if you're dealing with, well, larger scale social organizations. And I was reading these guidelines for faculty members at Mount Royal College in Calgary, and for a faculty retreat, which is really not one of the world's most dangerous, what would you say, happenings.
Yes.
And all of the faculty members were assured that trained counselors would be at hand in case the discussion became intense beyond the point of tolerability. And I thought, what's going on here? It's like, well, the faculty members are infants, and those who oppose their ideas are predators, and the appropriate moral ethos is to care for the infants. And it's like, well, yeah, except no, because they're not infants, and this is not mother and baby. And this is also, to me, it's also an extension of the Freudian nightmare, the Oedipal nightmare, that produces both dependency and narcissism as a consequence of the overextension, the unregulated overextension of that essential ethos directed at infants.
Yes.
Is that too harsh?
I don't think so at all, and I think that mothers and fathers just have such different styles of parenting, and with the common goal, we all want our children to do well. We all care about them, but what we know, what I saw when I did the research for the boy crisis, is that the children that didn't have dads in their lives, even the girls, did worse in 50 different areas. They were more likely, and the boys as well, but the boys more intensely in those areas. Both boys and girls who didn't have a lot of dad involvement, by the age of 9.5, their telomeres were shorter.
Wow.
14% shorter on average. That's the average between boys and girls when a father was not involved in a significant way by the time that child was 9.5. However, the telomeres of the boys were yet again 40% shorter than the telomeres of the girls. And many people don't know that the length of telomeres when you're 9.5 years of age is one of the best predictors of your life expectancy. The telomeres, carry, of course, the genes that tell you whether you're subject to cancer or vulnerable to any set of diseases. And so the fact
right, they're determiners of senescence, right, of the onset of senescence, essentially.
Yes.
Wow, and so it's that basic.
It's that basic and
that early.
And that early, and that and the impact on both girls and boys. I mean, there are certain differences between the lack of father on girls versus boys. For example, girls who don't have very much father involvement are far more likely to be pregnant as teenagers, because they that's oftentimes by not having father involvement, they don't know how to interact in a very socially nuanced way with a boy. They do know, though, that when they're 13, 14 years of age, that boy wants sex. And so if there's another girl that might give him sex and she wants to keep the boy and not have him go to the other girl, she'll go ahead and be sexual. And if he doesn't want to wear a condom, okay. She doesn't want to make his sexual experience one that...
Well, she has no experience under those conditions negotiating with any male. I know the data I remember, it's a few years old now, indicated quite clearly that girls with fewer brothers were much more likely to be raped. And I presume, and I've seen, brotherless girls among my clients, for example, some of whom were prone to sexual assault for all sorts of reasons, they had no idea how to negotiate no at an early stage.
Yes.
So by the time they were frightened enough to object, it was often so far along the unwanted amorous advance cycle that it was very difficult for things to stop. And of course, the guy on the other end presumes, often as unsophisticated as his victim, presumes that consent has already been obtained at that point. The girls with brothers have learned how to negotiate at that really embodied level, the same embodied level that probably emerges or underlies sophistication that emerges out of rough and tumble play with fathers and so on. So, yeah, I know. I mean, the paternal involvement seems really to me to boil down to something like a kind of a conditional encouragement. It's like, I really want the best for who you could be, and I'm also confident in your ability to attain that, and so I can hold you to high standards and enforce it because I think so much of you, so much of what you could be.
Yes.
And I think that is a lovely juxtaposition with that more maternal sense of, you always have a home here, we'll accept you in some real sense no matter what you do. Not that women don't put conditions on their children, because of course they do, but we're talking about the way that's expressed in a very practical sense.
Yes.
And okay, so these boys that let's look at the more extreme case for a minute. These school shooters. So my understanding of their psychology is that they're resentful. They're low down on the status hierarchy. They're not attractive to potential mates. They're not necessarily very popular. They don't have a lot of hope for attaining any of that in the future. So they're very, very frustrated by that lowly position. And that makes them angry. It makes them resentful. Then it starts to generate compensatory fantasies, which would be, well, I'll do something. I'll show them. I'll show them. I'll show them. I'm going to be famous. Everybody's going to know who I am. And then they drift, and they can drift into these violent fantasies. And sometimes that's motivated also by thoughts of direct revenge because they've been bullied and they've been pushed around. And so they have reasons to be angry, let's say. No, I'm not saying any of this is justified, by the way. I'm just saying how it works. And then they brood for weeks, months, and years developing these fantasies of violence. But more importantly, focusing on the consequences for notoriety of the violent act. And so one of the things that I've been suggesting to people who are interested in this sort of thing is, especially people on the media side, is that they don't use the shooters' names. They don't report the shooters' names. And I think because the thing about the mass shooters in particular is they've learned how to hijack the media world to provide themselves with hundreds of millions of dollars worth of free publicity, to draw attention to their manifestos, for example, but also, and then they can have these fantasies. It's like the same kind of fantasy that a suicidal teenager will have, because the suicidal teenager will often fantasize about as if he's a spirit that will be there at his funeral, with everybody huddled around the coffin, including the boys and girls who rejected him, expressing their sympathy for the way that he behaved, expressing their sorrow for the mistreatment that he suffered. The parents are doing the same thing. And he sees this in a very dramatic sense. And there's an elaboration of that on the violence side. And they want to be notorious. And you ask why, and why boys, not girls? And the answer is, well, success to boys is linked with popularity with girls, for example, in a way that it's simply not linked for girls with boys. And it's a huge difference. So do you see anything wrong in that? You and I had an interesting experience that I wanted to touch on. So part of the reason I reached out to Warren in the aftermath of these events is because he got a letter 6 months ago, something like that, from a... Do you want to tell the story? Go ahead and tell the story.
Yeah. I opened my email and I saw a letter from somebody who was a Hispanic young man in Texas, actually, and he said to me, thank you for the Boy Crisis book. And he said, I was raised by my dad, and I was raised by, I was raised by my mom without a dad. And then I was passed on to my aunts, who both neither had a father or a man, a husband in their life, or a man or a boyfriend in their life. Then I was passed on to my grandmother. She didn't have a man in their life. None of them liked men very much. I heard negative things about my father, but I never really saw much or anything of him, and so I didn't have any structure. I didn't have any purpose. So I got involved with 4chan, and then I got involved with 8chan, and 8chan is a fascist group, and the fascist group gave me something I could count on, an ideology. It gave me structure. It gave me purpose. It gave me a sense
like a gang.
Yes, it's very much like a gang. Gangs give you respect when you don't feel you have respect. The gangs promise you respect, I should say, and so you become part of that family. And he felt very much part of that family. So he told me. So I wrote up a 52-page manifesto that was overlapping in its effectiveness. I thought it was even better than the two other people at 8chan who had become celebrated mass shooters. And he said, I was ready to, I was making the plans to carry it out. And in the process, I stumbled across the Boy Crisis book. And what he said to me was very powerful. He said, it wasn't the data that got to me. It was being seen, that you saw. It was like you were a spy in my life, telling me what I was feeling, the hurt that I had, the lack of structure, the lack of purpose, the loss of self, the feeling that I didn't have that boundary enforcement. Therefore, I didn't have that discipline. I didn't have anything that anybody that would tell me that's too much, that's too little, that's you're doing that wrong, and
you could do better.
And you could do better. And you were explaining all that, and just being seen for my vulnerabilities made me not have the energy that I had to begin to continue carrying out my what I had outlined in my manifesto. And so he ended it by saying, thank you for saving not just my life, but the lives of countless others, because I was really working this. So there would have been countless others. So I would have been seen as doing something that he felt was positive, that is helping the fascist ideology to be more broad spread. And so, what I really, my heart is saying to people that I hear is that when we see a mass shooter, or we see somebody with in this type of modality, we see that they're angry, and we tend to have anger at their anger, as opposed to having empathy at their vulnerability. And what this fellow was telling me was, you had empathy about my vulnerability, and when I saw that you saw my vulnerability, I lost my anger, or my anger diminished enough to not make me want to follow through so systematically on my 52-page manifesto. And I did end up going to a couple of psychologists. I did a few sessions with him as well. I wrote to you about it. You gave me some guidance as to what to do with him. And so, and almost the exact same pattern happened with also in Texas. He was doing Port Lead School. He dropped out of school. He had a speech impediment. He was being.
I said he probably don't want you to come or something. But I told him to tell you during the week.
He's lucky he's got any roles to help him out. Yeah.
And he was texting her and saying, I'm going to be, see my guns here on TikTok, see my guns on.
So I'm probably not going to go to Eddie's until Monday or Tuesday or something like that.
Let me know.
School's out now, so it don't matter.
Oh, no, just let me know. Be something to do,
Well, that shows you the degree of fantasizing, right? Because what that means in some sense is that to put myself in his position, which is of course
where's the kids?
Thing to do is he's
In Maine.
constructed this girl in his imagination.
That's right. I remember that. Was it that last time that you said something about they're going to be going
looked at him one day,
up
and
there.
that would be enough.
Yeah, she's in denial. She's in denial. There's no fucking way she's not doing it. All right, she was complaining about different times about electric bills over the last few years, right? That was a big deal, and I kept saying to her, look, they just went up another 13 cents a kilowatt here, 6 cents a kilowatt there. From the time we left Connecticut to the time we were here, because I was paying the electric bill in Connecticut, so I was telling her back then, I'm like, wow, they're planning to go up 37% in the next year. So then when we moved here, I was still paying the electric bill for the first few years anyway, and then I was still complaining to her about it. Wow, they keep going up on the electric bill. Well, then when she took over the electric bill, then she's every once in a while you'd hear a complaint out of her about it, and I'd say, yeah, remember I was telling you? And they keep going up and up and up on the kilowatts.
Yeah.
It's not that we're using more electricity, because we tried all the light bulb changes and
No,
all
I
that
know,
shit.
yeah.
You know, they just keep going up per kilowatt.
So far, mine's still at 10 point something, 10 cents something. Mine's still.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I was just warning her about. This is the part that gets me. Whether it's gas, grocery store, or the electric bill, she's trying to fake and pretend that it's not happening. She's not. Where are all the complaints? Is my question. Where the hell are all the complaints about these things? Because gas being doubled should make a difference on your vacationing plans. To me, I mean, if you're going to spend what normally would have been $150 is now going to be $300 to $400 in gas just to go back and forth somewhere,
And then riding
drive
around
around a
to
little
at
bit.
the
Right,
doors, yeah.
right.
You ain't just gonna go right to the hotel or wherever they're staying, and then that's it, no
You
ride
can't. It's
around.
back and forth to the beach. It's on little tours here and there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, yeah.
So that part's doubled. Now, every restaurant, every place you go is going to be nearly doubled in price of what it was just a year ago. What is it, only for me? Is it only me that this is happening to?
Your father said he takes the kids to McDonald's, I think he said $20 or $27.
They're the biggest ripoff.
I know that, I know, but I'm just saying, I know your father said something about that. I told him that's why I don't go out to eat.
Garbage
Yeah,
fake
yesterday I
food.
wanted to go to the Chinese place and pay $10 for a meal. I thought if I should just go home and cook something, fuck that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fake garbage McDonald's food is not even.
I know.
But yeah, they did it too. Everybody has. Now, what they just announced is that the electrical grid is becoming more expensive to run. So now they're warning us that the electric bills are going to go up again. They did that over the last 12 years. They've been going up on it. So now they have new reasoning to put behind it and a new way to get away with it. And now they're saying that energy is going to be raising. Well, I forget what they said. They're starting off, the electric companies, that we should start feeling it from National Grid. I'd say 28%, I think is what they're looking for this time. We can expect 28%, I want to say, increases in our electric bill sometime in the near future. Okay, that's what their goal is now. That's a lot, man. And they're going to do it a lot quicker than they did it over the last 12 years. It took them 12
Drew got
years
his
to raise
propane
it.
filled up the other day. I forgot, I didn't see him yet to see what it was. I told him last time they gave me propane, it was over $5 a gallon. He looked at me, he goes, really? I said, I'm not lying to you. Not lying to you. You know, and I still got money in my fuel system, but I don't, they usually supposed to send it back to them.
Yeah, they're tearing us apart. They're tearing the fucking country apart. So it's funny to watch some people try to ignore that it's happening, you know, and that's what Kathy's trying to do. That's what Jay and Jen the other day were trying to do. Trying to pretend that it's not happening.
Oh, Roxanne's gonna feel it now. I tried telling her to tell you. I said, Roxanne, don't get mad at me. But I think you can collect unemployment, even though you're not getting laid off. It's because she's not on salary. She's by the hour. Right now, she's at the summer off. She don't get no money from the school. I says, I'm pretty sure you can apply for you know, what do you call it there? Unemployment for 3 months or 2 months of school being out. I don't know if she's gonna do it or not. I said, it'd help you out. I know Seth got a raise to help cover some of the money you lost while you're working, but now you're gonna be out, so whatever you get a week from the school, you ain't gonna have for 2 months, whatever it is, right? July, August.
Yeah.
So I hope she does check into it. Go online and check it out. You know, they got different things you could ask on there. You know, she knows. I hope she does because.
Then after talking to that Jay and Jen, I took Jen's car, my friend Jen's car, yesterday to work on that. Was it yesterday, the day before, whatever? And I was telling her about the Jay and Jen story, and then she said, "Yeah, we're doing that here too." I said, "You are?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "We're not allowed. That's been that way for a while now. You're not allowed to call the boys and girls anymore. You have to find out."
And then he can speak.
I said, "How the hell do you figure out what if one kid goes by they, another kid goes by their, another kid goes by she, sure, whatever the fuck it is? I mean, there's thousands of these pronouns."
There's no more he or no more she.
No. She said it's been that way a long time. She said years. She said it's been that way already for a couple of years or more. She said, I said, "Well, gee, you never said nothing about it before." She said, "Yeah, I did when you brought it up." She said, "I told you last time you brought it up at McDonald's." I said, "Oh," I said, "I misunderstood you. I thought you said you expected it to come. But I didn't realize it was already happening."
Women, girls, you call them princesses. Boys, I don't know what you call them. But that's what best thing. Hi, princess.
Can't do that anymore. And then the whole drag queen thing that I was telling Jen and Jay about, right, that I was complaining to them about, that's also bigger now. What they wanted to do, Biden just announced it, I guess, yesterday. I was just hearing it. As a matter of fact, this guy right here, Jordan Peterson, he's got a video that was announcing it. It doesn't make it to mainstream. It's weird. You have to really look for these things that they're happening. Anyways, he just came out and he said he was pissed because they just put it into law now, and it's not a law, but a program, a bill. They passed a bill to start these school programs where it's called drag queen in every school. It's called drag for every school, a drag queen for every school, or something like that. So they want one drag queen to be working in every school now. They don't. So it's no longer just one gay, one transgender, one this, one that, to be more diverse. Now we're going to add drag queens to all the other labels as well. And not only that, but they're not going to be hired upon their credentials, obviously, because no one else has. If you watch the new press secretary, okay, she's got things going for her. She's black, she's lesbian, and I forget what else. She falls into a few categories that Biden was looking for. But now you watch her brain doesn't work very good. She can't even keep up with the reading. She's not able to have any answers on her own. I guess memorize.
It sounds like she ain't qualified for the job.
Well, did you see her talk
No,
yet?
no.
She doesn't talk. She reads.
Oh.
But then again, you're someone that thought McConaughey did a good job there. Whatever it is, Matthew McConaughey. I mean, he fucking sucks too, man. He's a douchebag. You know, because someone else said to me too that that was a good interview with McConaughey. I'm like, why? Why is that a good interview?
And then Monday's a holiday for this kid's whatever's going on.
He's taking away the gun rights, and the thing is, like, Eddie was the one. I was talking to Eddie yesterday on the phone. I'm like, Ed, think about it. These stupid-ass conservative Republicans, though you might be on their side or on the other side, either way, they're both wrong. Because one side wants to telling you that they're going to take away your right to get a gun. Oh, he said this. He said, "Oh, yeah, we want to take these guns that have 300 rounds in them." I'm like, 300 rounds? What the fuck gun has 300? Machine guns, he kept calling them. I'm like, Ed, that's not what they're banning. They're not taking, and what they're doing is they're saying between the ages of 18 and 21. So your son or daughter up to 21 can be drafted into the Army now if we're under martial law. That's still going to be okay. But they can't own a fucking gun to protect themselves and their family. It's bullshit, Ed. They made us afraid of guns. And they said, oh, maybe it's a 50-round gun. I said, no, they don't have, that's
they
no
only have
such
so much
thing.
in the clip. The
Look,
long clip, I forgot how many bolts are in that long
20-something, or at a max,
They put that in their pocket, put the other one in real quick.
Right. Yeah. So it's a matter of how many rounds go into a clip. Big fucking
whatever
deal.
holds in that clip thing.
Right. It's a distraction from reality is what it is. And then you'll hear the Republican side came out and said, no, that's not the answer. The answer is to put an officer in every school with a gun. Okay, well, what sense does that make? Because all schools that I know of are on the first floor and have a first floor to them. Yeah. So what are you going to now close all the windows? You're going to have to put bulletproof windows and close the fucking windows so no one can get into a window? Because if you got an officer at a front door with a gun, he ain't going to do much good once somebody's into a fucking room.
On the other side of the school.
Right, right. And then, I say in Eddie, I'm like, Ed, you believe too much of this shit you see in the news, Ed. Don't let it fucking bother you. I said, that whole thing was a false flag hoax. He's like, no. I'm like, think about it. Put yourself in the position of them parents. Would you let your fucking kid go on TV after watching a massive 19 of their friends be shot down?
With their heads blown off and shit like that. Their guts are all over the floor and all that.
3 days later, they're on
No.
national television like nothing happened. Bullshit. Nobody's that fucking taken from this. I mean, you'd have your kid home going to therapy for everything they just seen. You'd be crying it out every day. I
My
mean,
friend's laying there with his face blown up. I take his blood, I put it on, and I lay there like I'm shot.
yeah, there's
I'm
also
shitting in my fucking pants. I don't think I've enough time to think about putting blood, his guts on me to think make
correct.
sense.
Correct.
I know.
It's all fucking stupid.
It's all stupid shit.
Right.
It is.
Right. So they got little actors, and you're not supposed to call them out. I said, when it's a false flag like that, you're not supposed to call it out, because otherwise people say, "Oh my God, how could you be such a person that would be okay with?" Come on, man. And then you're gonna tell me 50 fucking cops and just human beings, take the badges off of them. If you're telling me 50 human beings were gonna wait in a hallway to listen to gunfire after gunfire for an hour and a half, and no one's going to enter the room. Bullshit.
Hey, suppose they waited in the hallway.
Right, whatever. And
I know.
it's all bullshit, because there's
I know.
no way that would happen.
Yeah.
Even the wimpiest, douchebaggiest, stupid ass motherfucker, even without any weapons, is going to say, "Give me that metal trash barrel, give me that desk, we're going in."
Yeah.
And then once I'm in, I'm going to take the bullets, so you guys better be behind me, ready to take this fucker out, right?
Yeah.
And then they all look at each other and they say, "Right, buddy, okay, you're our man." And then you go in right behind whoever says that.
Yeah.
And that's the way we would all do it. Anybody
Okay.
would do it. But we're going to believe this shit, and then you got to feel bad about it? It's fucking ridiculous.
Well, they found that little kid, that 3-year-old that drowned in.
Oh,
See
yeah?
that one? Yeah.
Yeah.
Little black kid, yeah. What happened was, the mother dropped him off at the babysitter, or the babysitter showed up, and then I guess the kid she was outside with the kid or something, and did something, and then she went back in, the kid couldn't find the kid.
Yeah.
They had hundreds of people looking for the kid, and they finally found him in a pond, by where he lived, drowned in. 3 years old.
Yeah.
I've seen him on, it just sucks. I seen it yesterday. I asked Roxanne if she's seen it. She says, "Yeah, Dad, I seen it." I said, "I know, I'll just tell you. How can you have somebody babysitting you and you live by a fucking water thing? Why don't you have a fence?" Some people are fucking nuts or something. I don't know.
Well, the whole thing sounds a little drastic to me.
To
The
get-
chances of a kid getting away from you,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
that's 1 in a million.
Yeah.
The chances that he's going to make it to a pond, there's,
Unless
1
they
in a
live
million.
right by the water like that.
Even so,
Yeah, I know.
he's got to walk away. And why go to the pond? Why not go to a million other places that are interesting,
I
right?
know.
So that's still another 1 in a
I
million.
know that.
and then if he goes to the pond, there's another 1 in a million that he's going to even go into the pond,
Yeah.
right?
When
So
they're not
there's-
showing if it's a little dock, the kid walked on the dock, fell in. You know what
I
I'm saying?
find the whole story suspicious.
Yeah,
I would have to
yeah.
wonder. Who knows? Maybe the nannies was up to no good. Maybe somebody else was up to no good and blame it. Who knows?
I know.
But it sounds a little. Even that
Yeah.
sounds a little funny to me.
Oh yeah, it does. But it sucks to see that on TV. I know what.
In other words, there's something missing to the story.
I
don't
thought
know
the
what
kid got
story's
kidnapped.
missing.
I really did. I thought they didn't show what he was called or whatever he was. Just said 3-year-old missing, and they had all these people, the cops. They're all looking through the woods and all this other shit.
Yeah.
And it's in Mass, out there somewhere. I forgot where the fucking which city or whatever. it was, but
Yeah, no, bad shit does happen, and even crazy people are
Yeah.
out there too, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I understand that, but it's unfortunate.